Today we're looking at restoring a 1970s Redline Swingin wing. This car was donated by Grant Dean Fuller back in October of 2018. Yeah, I'm running a little bit behind. He was kind enough to donate this car along with his entire childhood collection of Redlines to be restored for your viewing pleasure on the channel. So thank you very much, Grant. As I said, this is the original 1970 version of the Swingin wing. This version was produced from 1970 to 71. It would be reissued in later years, but with all the gimmicks removed. It's a fantasy model. Mattel makes fantasy models for the most part to avoid paying licensing fees to other companies, but also for toy aisle appeal and to widen the lineup. This car has a lot of 1960s dome styling, sort of like the Mod Quad, the Mantis, the splitting image, and of course the silhouette. It's funny and ironic that 1960s car designers were guessing what cars would look like in the future, while future designers would be modeling many of their cars off of cars built in the 60s. This car is in reasonably good shape other than the base, which has gone almost completely black from oxidation. The wing is missing, but that's to be expected. They were very delicate and easy to break off, and I think a lot of kids would have agreed that the car just looked better without them. Even Mattel got rid of them in later reissues. One of the really cool gimmicks about this car is the slide-out rear engine. If you're into downhill racing, this is a good car to have. It's all metal, including the engine, making it one of the more heavy cars Mattel produced. After drilling out the post, I can take the car apart and get an idea of its internal design. This is the American version of this car. The Hong Kong version had a black interior. There really aren't any rails for the engine to ride on. It sort of just sits inside the car, held in place by two small metal tabs that keep you from removing it. Since this part is made of metal, most of the engines have survived to today. Had they been made of plastic, this probably would be a rare part. The windshield is in okay shape. It has two cracks in it, probably from being stepped on if I had to guess. The car uses the plastic flap suspension, just like the Mighty Maverick from the last video. So as is customary for this channel, the first thing I want to do is remove the paint to get an idea of how the underlying metal is holding up. To remove it quickly, I use aircraft paint stripper, which uses a foam to hold the chemical in place on the part. It takes about 5 minutes or less for the stripper to completely remove the paint. After this time, I clean the part with some soap and water. After the cleanup, I can get a good look at the metal, and this is not too bad. No major pits or issues. As such, I'm going to sand this one down to remove any imperfections. Normally I'll first wet sand with 600 grit sandpaper. This will remove any of the oxidation and pits on the surface. A car like this is a great car to sand because it has almost no details cast into it that you need to worry about sanding away. After I removed all of the imperfections with the 600 grit, I moved to 1000 grit sandpaper. Here the only objective is to remove the 600 grit sanding lines. All the major sanding was done with the 600 grit before. After this, I could go to 1500 if I wanted, but I find I can usually polish at 1000 grit without any issues. So here I want to show an issue you can get into with sanding. It's difficult to see before, but if I go over the car with some 4/0 steel wool, you'll start to notice dark spots all over the car. These are places that I have sanded through the zinc plating. These areas will show up when I paint the car. Even if I polish the car to a mirror shine, the paint will react with these areas and stick out like a sore thumb. To fix these issues, you'll have to zinc plate these areas, and depending on how bad you sand through, you might have to plate it a dozen or so times to fully cover these areas up. As I've stated in other videos, you can't leave the car in overnight or one long plating session. The car has to be removed about every 15 minutes to keep the crystal growth to a minimum. So keep all that in mind if you decide to aggressively sand the car, because the more you sand the car, the more sanding you're going to be doing in the future to clean up the zinc. So while I'm plating the body for the 8th or so time, I'll turn my attention to the base. And wow, I know this is all oxidation, but man, the oxidation looks oxidized. You might think, well, sand it off, but a lot of this is aluminum oxide. That's what grinding wheels are made of, so sanding it would be a task, and I'm lazy, so I'm going to drop it in the electropolisher and let it remove it. Here it is after I'm done and have washed the part. You can see a lot of the black residue on the base. This can easily be removed with a brass brush or some steel wool, which gets me to this point. Here you can see the oxidation is gone and it's back to a shiny metal, though with a little bit of copper on top. I can also read the writing on the base now, something I couldn't do before. So now I can wash it with some degreaser and then go about zinc plating it. The zinc layer will cover the copper and give the metal a uniform brightness that I'll bring out with some steel wool. After this, I can start polishing with a felt wheel and some polishing compound. Now in the background, I'm still plating and sanding the body, but eventually I feel I have all the blotches covered in zinc, and I can polish the body as well, which gets me to this point. I say this point like it was easy to get to. We're over 5 minutes in video time, and I have about 5 hours of actual work in this car just to get to this point. Ah, the magic of editing. I decided to paint this car in yellow Spectraflame from the Redline shop. But before I do, I'm going to first go over the body with some of this base coat also sold by the Redline shop. I have 2 reasons for doing this. 1, I can't seem to completely get rid of the blotches, and 2, the base coat will give a granular look to the surface which more closely matches the original cars. None of the original cars were polished to a mirror shine. However, I will still get the use of the mirrored surface because the base coat will be so light that it will be translucent to some degree. You can see here how it looked after I applied it. If you're wondering why it's yellow, it's because I messed up while filming and thought I was recording when I was not. So this is the car after the first tack coat, but you can get a good look at the base coat here. Here's how the paint turned out after 4 coats and 2 days of cure time. And I really like this. My lighting is set up to combat glare, but this is super shiny. Now it's not mirrored, but it's very close to what a mint version of this car would have looked like. In fact, upon comparing it to some mint red lines I have, it could actually use a little more of the base coat just to tone down the shine a little bit. Alright, so moving on to the windshield, I can see quite a few defects on the surface that I'll need to work on. The cracks will have to stay. I don't have a way to fix them. But the other issues can be sanded out with some 600 grit sandpaper. Here again, I start with 600 to get all the major sanding done, and then go up to 1000 to remove the 600 grit lines, and then polish with a buffing wheel and some Plastex plastic polish by Meguiar's. After this, I wash the part and check my work. If everything looks good, then I'm done. If not, then I go back to an earlier step and start over from that point. Now let's take a look at the engine. Here you can see that the oxidation has gotten to the areas most exposed to air and moisture, while the rest of the part has been somewhat protected while being inside the car body. To remove this, I'll use my electropolishing setup. I don't show this very often anymore because I have it set up permanently in my utility room and the lighting is not very conducive to filming, but since I've already made some mistakes in this video, what the heck. You can see here I use a copper clamp to hold the part. This is where the copper ions are getting into the solution. Total time in the bath depends on how much corrosion there is, but usually it takes only a few seconds to remove it all. You can use other acidic solutions to clean out the oxidation. I'll leave a link to another video I made some time back on how to use Limeaway, but I still prefer using this method, both for its speed and for the fact that it doesn't seem to attack the raw metal the same way other acids do. Anyway, after a few seconds, I will remove the part and wash it with some water to remove any of the solution. Then I'll go over the part with a brass brush to shine it up. The rest of the process you already know. I will then zinc plate the item to get a uniform brightness and then shine up the zinc by going over the part with a brass brush. After all that, I should have a nice and shiny engine to go into my shiny car. The last thing to do before I can put the car back together is to remove the old wheels and replace them with some new ones. These cap style wheels are a bit of a pain to remove, but probably the easiest way is to use a hobby knife to wedge between the cap and its base and then twist the knife. If done right, the cap should fire off into the ether to be found later by the Roomba, which will complain bitterly about it. New wheels go on with much less fuss. I chose to go with some deep dish wheels in the back, mostly because I like them more than the standard wheels. Reassembly is pretty simple. The only major difference is that I need to make sure the sliding engine can freely move. And since you're so close to being done, it's also the time you're most likely going to drop the car, or stab it with a screwdriver, or both. And as you probably noticed, the last thing I need to do is add the wing, the item for which the car is named. You can buy these from the Redline shop. The side pillars fold over and then you can insert them into the holes on top of the car. I think I alluded earlier to the fact that I don't really like this thing. It seems so out of place, and even Mattel was quick to get rid of it. The gimmick is that the wing actually does swing up and down. I'm not sure how much play value there is in that, and we'll assume that most kids' memories of it are of them swallowing it and taking a trip to the emergency room. But since I want the car to be complete, I'll add it back on. Alright, I want to say thanks to Grant for sending me this and all the other cars. I joke about it, but am very happy to have it in my collection, wing and all. I decided to keep the cracked windshield instead of replacing it like I normally would. This is because I try to keep cars as complete as possible when I can attach an original owner's name to them. And again, I can't really see it when it's in the display case anyway. Overall, I'm really pleased with this restoration and am looking forward to playing with the base coat a lot more. I really think I can get some interesting results by blending the mirrored polished surface and a slightly thicker base coat, or at least it seems really promising. But of course, let me know what you think below. Do you like the wing? I'm interested in others' thoughts on it. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.